I have skip again that I always get at the start of my recordings that, like, I don't know if I'm delayed or not,
Okay.
but hey.
No. I don't think it's been a problem. I think I've mastered the art of let me put Matt a little bit ahead by like a split second,
Alright, sure.
and we don't seem to be talking over each other in a way that we don't that is abnormal
Hmm.
rather.
Yeah.
All right. Let's fucking do this. Let's talk about the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen here on the Fail Blockbusters superhero season. I'm your host, Diego Crespo. With me today is my co-host, Matt Garingo.
That's me.
Matt, when did you first watch the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? Or what is your history with the League of Extraordinary
So
Gentlemen?
I
I guess it could be the comic as
I
well.
do have a history with this whole thing, I guess you could say.
Okay. Oh, all
Um
right.
so like I guess here's the thing, is this I'm trying to think if this is my introduction to Alan Moore in any way, even tangentially. Um so I think we've talked about. So here's something funny. We've done now, at this point, we've done three superhero films in a recording schedule. We've done three superhero films from the year 2003, all right in a row. This probably isn't release order, but uh,
No, and that was completely not on
yeah, it
purpose,
was
by
not
the
on.
way.
This was like, and this one specifically was a last minute sort of addition.
Yeah.
um, is Hellboy's 2004, right? Um,
Yeah, it's one
Yeah,
year
it's
later.
1 year later. Um, but yeah, this is so we've done a few from 2003. Um, and just the date when we're recording this episode, VTuber Natasha Mume just held her graduation concert. Sorry, had to get the bit in. I have no further things to say about VTubers. Don't worry. Uh, but
You don't think one of the VTubers could be a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen
now
members?
there's an idea. All right, Diego. All right, here's how we start printing this. You know what the kids fucking love? They fucking love Victorian era old public domain characters. So we're gonna start a VTuber company where all of the VTubers are public domain characters from the early 20th and 19th century. It's got Diego, you have inadvertently struck oil.
I feel it.
Stop
I feel great
digging. You
already.
have
I'm going to
hit
make so much
oil.
fucking
We're
money.
gonna fucking let's invest everything we have and fund it through crypto.
Oh no.
And let's move all our manufacturing to China specifically next week.
No.
We're good. It's printing money, Diego.
This is how people get like wrapped up in crypto
Yeah.
schemes.
Anyway, I remember seeing the trailer for this movie. Do you have? Here's the thing. I'm usually the one who's like on the money with these things. What are you? Did you come later to this? When are you into this movie?
I remember seeing trailers. I can't remember how the trailer like functioned, but I remember seeing clips of it, and I was like, because I was looking forward to Van Helsing, I think. So maybe
Oh yeah,
I definitely didn't see this in
it is crazy.
theaters.
Is Van Helsing 2004 too? In terms of yeah,
Oh, you know what? Then yeah,
it's
maybe I'm just melting it in my
I
brain.
those movies blend together. These movies blend together a little bit for me because like he literally fights Mr. Hyde in the opening of Van Helsing, right? Um, Van
Hmm.
Helsing, not a great movie, but probably a more successful version of this than League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Um,
Okay, you know what? No, so I guess my brain, my child brain, was just melding the images of this together with Van
hmm,
Helsing. It must be like for the home video release, and then the big movie screen trailers for Van Helsing,
okay.
which we will differ on opinion on that movie,
All right.
but very similar vibes, I will say, and I think you're totally right. A more successful version of this movie.
Mm.
Yeah, so I remember being excited though because I just liked, like what we talked about with the 11-hour Lord of the Rings retrospective. Like I just liked fantasy stuff I'm discovering, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a little steampunky, which is a fantasy subgenre basically, right?
Mm.
And so like it got my gears clicking in my brain, right? Like I'm realizing I like this sort of stuff. I don't want stuff that just takes place in reality, you know?
Yeah.
Like I was definitely drawn more to like the fantastical visuals of it, especially because it's still very uncommon to see movies that take on like a steampunk fantasy aesthetic.
Yeah, has
I didn't
have what's
realize really
what?
quick. Just like,
Go ahead. Sorry.
well, I'll just no, it's all right. Just like I didn't know like the characters were like Tom Sawyer, and fucking who the fuck is Sean
John
Connery again?
Quartermain. Damn it.
Island Quartermain, yeah. Who Max is trying to get me to get hooked on the Quartermain stuff lately, and you are too, you did too at
Yeah,
one point.
they're fun.
So
I mean, look, they're like very like white imperialist in tone, like, but they
hey, look, it happens. It
yeah.
happens. I'm not judging too
Most
hard.
of the works that are being ripped on here are dated in one way or another.
Yeah.
So, um, but I was gonna say, has the steampunk thing ever worked in like a mainstream film release?
I don't think so.
Like, does it? No one's really.
Probably the closest.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one's cracked it.
Mm,
No one's cracked it. The thing is, I think it will happen in like the next decade
mm,
because like that's one of the newer genres, right? The subgenres of
yeah.
fantasy, steampunk, just comparatively, and our demographic really seems to like it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a
um,
very like
so I think it will just
it was a
happen.
very Tumblr aesthetic. I'll say that.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
And friends of the show, Cameron Carpenter and some other great artists worked on a steampunk television pilot
mm,
like a decade ago. It's an animated series called Gaffytown Bounty.
mm.
Wasn't picked up, but I had seen future concept art and the test footage of the pilot, and it would have been really cool. And I think stuff like that, like he wasn't the only one trying to get something made steampunk like a decade ago,
Yeah.
right? It's mostly just people being like, "What the fuck is this?" Because they're like 60-year-old
Yeah,
men in business suits smoking
it's
cigars.
one of
They
those
don't
where
know
it's
what this
just like
is.
it's slightly too early because it's right now it's like really big in like anime, right? Like it's still like Ghibli did a lot
Hmm.
of steampunk, but like then again, it's like Atlantis: The Lost Empire bombed. It's got a very steampunk type of
Yeah.
aesthetic. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know. It might be one of those where like the more anime goes mainstream, for better or worse, I think that might help mainstream certain steampunk aesthetics. We need to burn out this
Hmm.
irony disease that's affecting everything right now, and
Yeah,
then we
I
can.
think it's going. I really think it's on the way out. It's not going to be fast, but it's on the way out. I
Yeah.
think.
How much money Deadpool make? How much money Minecraft make?
Okay. Well, listen. Minecraft doesn't have legs. It looks like
What do you mean?
it just
It's
made a lot of money up front.
but like you
Yeah,
said,
but Sinners beat it back to back weeks.
all right, but it still made like $800 million.
Yeah, but people know Minecraft. They're not going because of that trailer.
Hmm.
Just because they need to take their fucking kids to something.
Yeah, I guess.
Like the people you're seeing on the TikTok videos and stuff, rioting and everything like that, like it's fucked up, but it looks like that's died down at least. That was like
Oh,
that
oh,
was just trying to
oh,
be in on the
oh!
joke meme
You
type
you you
bullshit.
liberal hypocrite! You're suddenly not pro riots.
I'm not pro chicken jockey.
Kentucky. Um, I stood in the back of a theater,
That is
and
unfortunately a little bit of an earworm.
well, Jack Black is look. Jack Black is like kind of a meme if they were a person, right? Like, and I don't mean like in the way we do like the Nicolas
Yeah.
Cage thing. It's just he has that sort of cadence in the way he carries himself. Uh,
Hmm.
it's why I think people like him so much. Um, do you think like all right? So Like here's the crazy thing about like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen comics. So, all right, we probably have to give context on what the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen even is. I'm assuming some people don't
Oh yeah,
know
because people don't know
because no
this.
one's because this movie is not getting reevaluated, and it's no one's really talking about it. And the comic is certainly big if you're a comic book nerd, but like even then, I don't know how big it is, right? Um,
hmm
when was the last volume of The
It's sort of
Tempest?
like, hey, did you know Alan Moore also did this?
What was that?
It's sort of just like, hey, did you know Alan Moore also did this?
Yeah,
It's not like
I think it was
a
bigger.
mandatory thing.
I think it was bigger a few years ago because the publication of the comic kind of comes at the tail end of the sort of rise of creator-owned comics in the '90s, right? Um, Very
hmm
famously, uh, or infamously, however you want to look at it, this was originally published by Alan Moore's company, America's Best Comics, which had made a deal with Jim Lee, comic book writer and author Jim Lee's Wildstorm Comics. And then before anything was published, Jim Lee sold Wildstorm to DC Comics. And DC and Alan Moore had a huge beef going back to the Watchmen rights. Uh, and it caused a lot of controversy upon initial release. Um, and Alan Moore, like because he owned it, he didn't have to worry about DC like wrestling it away from him. But the moment he didn't have to publish it under DC, he stopped publishing it under DC. And since then, I don't know who does it currently. Um, Looks like Top Shelf did it for a minute, and then Knockabout Comics. But they've done the last few volumes of League. Also, now every time I say League, it sounds like I'm saying fucking League of Legends, which hasn't helped this movie's
Yeah.
legacy. Uh,
No, no. And I even saving like the audio file before we started recording, I put like failed superheroes league and my brain immediately was like, "Oh, I should probably finish Arcane." The League of Legends spin-off show that was even smart enough to distance itself from the name League of Legends so people could watch it
yeah,
and not be
they
repulsed.
tricked people into watching it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Oh, you weren't a fan.
it was fine. It was one of those where like it was fine, and then people were like, it's the everything everywhere all at once thing of like me being like, it's fine. People are like, this is the greatest thing ever made. I'm like, I'm not sure it's that, but it's fine. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, much more positive on that movie. But I like the fantasy steampunk vibes. I'm like, oh yeah, this is my shit. I'm like kind of give or take the narrative.
mhm.
But like this is my fuck. I want like more things to look like this,
Yeah.
So that made me
So
happy.
for
Like
those,
a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen adaptation with that, like with those aesthetics,
mhm,
could be like awesome.
yeah. So, for those who don't know, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was a comic written by Alan Moore, the creator of Watchmen, V for Vendetta, and I guess this is around the time of From Hell, right? That's his other big comic from this era. Um, Alan
Yeah,
Moore
which
keeps
I have
trying.
not read.
Alan Moore keeps trying to prove to everyone that he hates superheroes, and then it mainly writes superhero comics. So I don't know what's going on with the man. Um, but yeah, and like he had his own he's a British author, but has his own imprint called America's Best Comics, which is where he put out League initially, along with stuff like Top 10 and Tom Strong. Tom Strong has a very like sort of like ray gun future aesthetic to it. It's a very fun comic if you haven't read it. Um, More like I would argue maybe I
hmm
guess the more kid friendly version of League, um, which the comic very much isn't. We'll get more into that. Uh, but it's about essentially a superhero team being assembled, made up of Mina Harker from Dracula, Alan Quartermain from King Solomon's Mines, King Captain Nemo from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and an Invisible Man. But I think legally isn't the Invisible Man from H.G. Wells's book. I believe the rights to that are very complicated and confused. So the Invisible Man is kind of an original character, but is so broad you can do anything, right? Um,
hmm
Named Holly Griffin in the comic, in a reference to H.G. Wells, the writer of uh, the Invisible Man. Um, and in terms of my relationship with it, I'm probably the only kid in 2003 who saw this trailer and was like, "That looks awesome." Because I'm not going to try and act like I was a super well read 10-year-old, but I was a monster movie fan as a 10-year-old, and so I knew characters, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, like the Invisible Man, and like Captain Nemo, who's connected to monsters because of the giant squid from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, right? Um,
Hmm.
so I was definitely more in the pocket of this movie when it came out, and then it came out and I saw Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff.
No. Oh fuck, that movie does kind of steal this movie's
Same
lunch.
weekend,
That's fucked up. That's
same
harsh.
weekend. Which is partly why we're here talking about it on the failed blockbusters series.
Okay, so it failed critically and at the box office. Is it a failure in our hearts?
Yes,
Yeah.
this movie doesn't work. Um,
No.
but
No, it doesn't.
eh, it's one of those though where
Well, here,
it's not. I wouldn't say it's like a train wreck of a film, right? It's just kind of
no,
like
no, I wouldn't either.
it's kind of a really high concept movie that was whittled down into something generic, right? Uh,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
I think that's the problem here. We'll talk about the changes that were made in adaptation, but the other famous thing with this is that this is Sean Connery's last film. You were asking my other reason. I knew Sean Connery was in 2003 because my grandfather was a huge James Bond fan, and also by this point I've seen like Last Crusade and
Hmm.
shit like that. So I know who Sean Connery is. In
Yeah,
asking
yeah,
about my
yeah.
memories of the trailer, I don't remember much except for them. I think listing like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, fucking Captain Nemo. Like I remember them listing those characters. Uh, but
Hmm.
I mainly remember Sean Connery in the trailer after they like show off all the characters going, "I'm waiting to be impressed." I remember that being in the trailer.
I have no recollection of the trailer moment. I just remember seeing it
And
still. But that's cool. You have that.
I think the trailer has the scene where Captain Nemo is like, they call it an automobile. I think that's in the trailer too.
That sounds like a trailer line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were really
Yeah.
trying to
No.
sell it.
Yeah. Uh. It's not a disaster, but it never takes off,
Yeah,
and
you keep
I
waiting
really
for
want
it.
it to.
You keep waiting for it to work and it never does. Uh,
Yeah. And look, this isn't generally a problem. Uh, Sean Connery, everyone knows him, great actor. Strange man.
yes.
Uh, but everyone else in this movie kind of doesn't hold a candle to his performance. And for an ensemble, you do need actors who can kind of hold their own on the screen against him.
Mhm.
And not that anyone's even like bad in this movie. I've liked all these actors when I see them in other stuff. Especially Jason Fleming, who I've always really, really liked, and I always felt should be a bigger actor.
Mhm.
But he just like commands the Sean Connery commands the screen in a way that makes everyone feel like so much smaller than they are, which doesn't work with a team ensemble team up movie. You
Yeah.
know, like,
It's weird where like
and
I
not
also
that
remember
Sean
this. They
Connery
really
is like
pushed this movie.
particularly given like an amazing performance either.
No, you can tell he kind of. I don't think anyone really knows what the tone of this movie is supposed to be, right? Um,
Hmm.
Again, I remember they really pushed this movie in terms of like this is going to be the next big thing. I remember a making of documentary that aired about it. And part of the documentary included either the director Stephen Norrington, who directed Blade, um, or one of the producers being like, we got this brilliant idea to cast Sean Connery. He'll be the poster, he'll be the name, and then everyone else will be these young up and coming actors who will be names in the future. But we don't need big names for those actors because we already got Sean Connery. I remember that being something that was said in the making of documentary, that like that was part of the strategy in releasing it. Um,
Hey, you know what? Not a bad
Not a
idea.
terrible
It's not.
idea.
It's just,
Uh,
yeah, just didn't
yeah,
come together.
Sean Connery having appeal in 2003 maybe is debatable for this type of movie, I guess. Uh, but yeah, there is something to the gravity Sean Connery brings to it. Kind of sucks the movie down in a weird way. Um, like it's just, yeah, it doesn't work as an ensemble, which is what it really should work as, right? Because
Hmm.
Alan Quartermain isn't even like he's arguably the main character of the comic, but it's more like Mina Harker is the main character of the comic. You're the comic, right?
Hmm. No.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, no.
Oh shit. Very different tone.
I imagine so.
Very different in tone. Alan Moore sure likes monsters having sex with humans,
Okay.
which is definitely
That explains so
which
much.
is definitely present in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Um, I'm not even going to say what Mr. Hyde gets up to.
Oh boy.
um,
I can't even imagine.
did you know in the second volume of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen they go up against the Martian invaders from War of the Worlds?
No, but that sounds
It's
awesome.
great. It's great. And
I should read
they
them.
go up against the Martians, and the opening of that just to tie it into kind of tie it into failed superheroes. In the opening of League Volume 2. It takes place on Mars, and we get Lieutenant Gulliver on Mars, but also John Carter of Mars, as they
Hey.
team up in war against the Martians from H.G. Wells' Martians, which then flee to Earth um, as part of the opening plot of League 2. Um, we should just give away what the
Yeah.
plot of this movie is because we're going to be jumping around a ton. Um,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
so there's a guy called the Phantom, which is arguably a reference to Phantomas, the French character, one of like the proto superhero characters. Um, uh, he's going around. He's basically we find out eventually he's trying to start World War I, right? Like that's the goal.
Hmm.
He's like kidnapping scientists and inventors and all sorts of shit because he wants to start World War I and sell weapons to it, which is the same plot as Sherlock Holmes. Uh, what is it? Army of Shit, League of Shadows, or something like that. Uh, what's
Oh, yeah, it's something of shadows.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Game of
Game of
Shadows, I think.
Shadows. Really bad sequel. But
Oh, I like that one, but
no, the
we're
first
not
one
here to
is
talk
like
about that.
so great, and they fuck up with the second one. Um,
I mean, I prefer the first one as well,
First
for
one
the
is
record.
one of the best. But anyway, um, yeah. The only good thing about that is when he gets in the fight with Moriarty at the end, and they detect punches at each other, which is just absurd. Uh, but yes, the character from James Bond, recruits all these people. In this version, it's Alan Quartermain, Nemo, Mina Harker, who in this version is a vampire. She's not a vampire in the comics. She's just sort of like, you fought Dracula, so we think you know what you're doing. Um,
Oh.
yeah, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and an Invisible Man named Rodney Skinner in the film, but whatever, rights issues. Here they add Dorian Gray and Tom Sawyer to the team. Um, Tom Sawyer very clearly you get
Okay,
the
they're not in
yeah.
the comics.
They're Tom Sawyer is very much there to get the token American character in. Although I think I could be wrong about this, but I think there was definitely a league that featured Dorian Gray. Like, there's all these past leagues, right? We don't like see a ton of their history, but
Hmm.
they existed. Like the one of the earliest leagues was founded by Prospero, the protagonist of Shakespeare's The Tempest. Um, Orlando is a recurring character in the League books. Orlando from the book Orlando, who is immortal. I think is only immortal in the comics, not in the Orlando work. But Orlando is famously the character who changes their sex halfway through their life. Um, is They made that into a really good movie in like the '90s, right? You know who I'm talking about, right?
No, no, no. Wait,
You don't
wait.
know
Who?
Orlando?
Do
When I say
I?
Orlando,
It's
oh,
not
you
coming to
you
me.
probably think of fucking Disney World when I say Orlando. You fuck,
I did. I didn't say that. I didn't do
you
that.
fuck. Orlando by Virginia Woolf.
Oh no, no,
Mhm.
no. I don't. I don't know that.
Well, read it. It's good.
Oh, okay. Yes, I will read it.
Orlando was born a man and then halfway through life just turns into a woman. And then it's only work of a feminist work. People kind of point to it, and now obviously it's been reevaluated in recent years for its relationship to trans narratives. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, there's a good version starring Tilda Swinton in the lead role um, from like '92.
I can't believe I've never heard of this. I am fucking so uncultured.
Yes, you are. Do you at least know who Don Quixote is?
Yes, I know who Don
Because he was
Quixote is.
also part of the league. Uh, but yes, so like that was like one of the
Here,
earlier.
I'm trying to be a good ally. I just added it to my watch list on
There you
Letterboxd.
go, great ally,
Yeah.
ally Diego Crespo. Had to be bullied into looking into it. Um, But Orlando, here's all right. So like in terms of like the sexual stuff in it, in the comics, Orlando, because he's immortal, has been like a member of a few leagues. He ends up joining a later version of the league that involves an also immortal Mina Murray and Alan Quartermain, who they become lovers in the comic, and then Orlando is their third, basically, in their
Oh shit.
relationship. In a team that also includes Mary Poppins, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah, the League comics go.
Alan Moore lets his freak flag
The
fly.
villain of League Volume 3 is Antichrist Harry Potter that fires magic lightning bolts from his dick.
What?
Yes.
No, you have to explain
The,
that. You can't just leave that there.
go read it.
No, you that one needs
Also,
explanation.
there's
What are you
there's
talking
there
about?
well, here's the thing: the League, because a few of the characters end up being immortal. Um, they go into modern day, and modern day I mean 2009 when I think the third volume was published. Uh,
No.
so they go to modern, and where they also meet characters from The Wire.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
What?
the League overlaps with everything.
Someone's gonna turn this into a TV show.
Well, I don't know because of now, like this famously, the other issue with this is that Alan Moore was so dissatisfied with the final product, and there was a lawsuit involved um, over Larry Cohen sued the filmmakers of this movie because at one point he had pitched a script called Cast of Characters in the '90s, and it had a very similar premise to League of Extraordinary Gentlemen in terms of using public domain characters. uh, Warner Brothers just settled out of court, and Alan Moore wanted to fight it because he wanted to prove that he wasn't a plagiarist, and he felt Warner Brothers left him out to dry by settling out of court over this issue. Um, and
Mm,
and that's why Alan Moore's name does not appear on Watchmen a few years later. Uh,
yeah. Well, here's the thing about Alan Moore. Everyone, like, all these fucking nerds, like, hate him. And we've brought this up before, too, but I think it's worth reiterating specifically here because this movie stems from his brain, like, through a very arduous process. But, you don't get this movie without Alan Moore, for better or worse. Like, he clearly loves superheroes. He clearly loves comics. Um, all of these things have like hurt him in life
Yeah.
emotionally. Like obviously he's gonna be a little bitter about it. Like he opened his soul to tell these stories. Like you have to if you're an artist, and he just fucking he gets fucked by it like constantly. Like
Yeah.
none of his stories like end good with his creator owned shit, or even non creator owned shit.
Mhm.
There's always like bad blood there. Like, hey, maybe he's just an asshole. Like that's very real, right? Like he does seem like just a bitter person. But I'm also like, I understand why you'd be like that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like
He
you can only be that angry about something if you loved it at some point. I think.
yeah. I think there's also the argument that like how much is Alan Moore's cantankerousness genuine, right? Like he seems to be a guy who
Mm-hmm.
likes to, needle the comic book reading audience. Which is a good way to build your public image and brand, right? Uh, he
Yeah.
knows what he's doing. Like but he's also, he's an insane wizard anarchist. Like he practices black magic and he owns like a compound for anarchists. Like, he's a crazy person. God bless him. All things said. Uh, but yeah, there's a recurring thing of like comic book writers, especially of this era, kind of taking on personas in order to market themselves, in a way to it was kind of a way to get around the fact that a lot of comic book writers were sort of nameless or secondary to the characters they were actually writing up to this point. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, authors like Warren Ellis and Neil Gaiman took on personas. Wait, what's the similarity between those two? I'm not thinking about. Um,
Oh, we don't
anyway,
have to get into that. Everyone
anyway,
knows now. Oof, what a downer.
yeah, things suck. Everything sucks. Everything is bad.
Except Alan Moore, who is perfect.
What? Yeah,
No, no, no. I'm
right,
not doing that.
right.
I'm not doing that.
Post
That was a joke.
look, post gaming, everything's right now. I'm like waiting for more shit. Like I'm like, what else was happening with that era of comics? Like, what was going on? Um, we should say, this isn't the concept of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen isn't entirely original. Um, there is the World Newton universe. Have you ever heard of that by Philip Jose Farmer?
No.
Um,
Mm-mm, nope.
famous science fiction fantasy writer. Also, got a lot of sexual perversions in his work. Very similar to Alan Moore.
No.
So there's no way Alan Moore hasn't read his stuff. Probably most famous for writing like World of Tears and the Riverworld books. But he also developed this World Newton family, um, which essentially connects all the great characters of literature into like one bloodline almost. Um, and I don't remember the specifics of it, but it traces back to there was a meteorite that struck Yorkshire, England, in 1795. And according to Philip Jose Farmer, that meteorite contained genetic mutations which created descendants of like hyper intelligent, hyper strong characters, right? And that's his
Mm-hmm.
explanation for the sort of cultural boom that happens in England, and that includes characters like Tarzan, Doc Savage, Phineas Fogg. Phileas Fogg. What the fuck? I always say Phineas Fogg. Um, but he wrote books like Tarzan Alive or Doc Savage's Apocalyptic Life, which are almost like biographies of these fictional characters as if they were real people. And it takes their kind of
That's
loose,
interesting.
yeah, it takes their kind of loose continuities and writes them as if they were real, right? And then includes characters. I believe like Alan Quartermain even appears in those books. Like there's a lot going on there. There's also, to bring it to Mina Harker, the Anno Dracula books. Do you know Anno Dracula?
No, I'm like so out of the loop on all of this stuff you're mentioning today.
Anno Dracula was written by Kim Newman, who you've seen. If you look up Kim Newman, you'll be like, I recognize that face from a bunch of horror documentaries. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I'm looking it up as you're talking about these things, and
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and his book takes place in an alternate universe, Victoria, England, where Dracula won essentially. Dracula was able to claim Mina Harker as one of his brides, ends up rising in power, marries Queen Victoria, turns her into a vampire, and then rules the British Empire as a sort of like dystopian state. Uh, and it crosses over with basically every vampire you've ever heard of appears. I'm looking at the list right now from the Wikipedia page. It's got Kurt Barlow from Salem's Lot. It's got the Count from Sesame Street. Like,
What?
yeah, it's got every vampire that's ever existed appears in it. Um, and also stars characters um, like Mycroft Holmes from the Sherlock Holmes books, Inspector Lestrade from Sherlock Holmes. I believe Quartermain also makes an appearance in those books. Uh, yeah, there's a lot of it does a very similar League of Extraordinary Gentlemen thing, and then goes on so long that this is according to the Wikipedia. I've only read the first Anno Dracula book, so and it was forever ago. I guess the trilogy of Anno Dracula books eventually connect to the Warhammer Fantasy universe at a certain point. So a lot of
What?
overlap there. Although I will say my personal beef is I don't know if Kim Newman has ever heard of Castlevania, and because these works make no reference to the Castlevania books, which is my personal beef with them. But anyway,
So I'm looking. I see that book series now, and so the first one's called Anno Dracula.
yep,
The second one is called The Bloody Red Baron.
yeah. Oh, because also there isn't just fictional characters. There's also historical characters appear in the books too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like I said with Queen Victoria, and it carries over into World War One. Um, and like I believe by the
Okay, and
third
then
book, you're in like Golden Age Hollywood and shit like that. Um,
okay, yeah. The third book is called Dracula Cha Cha Cha,
yeah, like I believe that's
which
a
is
yeah. It's set
a
in
heck of a title.
it's set in 1959 in Rome, and I believe features Federico Fellini. So
You know what? Incredible,
yeah,
genuinely incredible.
yeah.
I have to read
I
these.
really liked the first one, but I don't know why I never bothered reading the other ones.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you for bringing this to my attention. This sounds fucking
yeah,
awesome.
you should read all this stuff. It's very fun. Um, now, we said the plot here is the villain, the Phantom, who is revealed to be M and Professor Moriarty from the Sherlock Holmes book. It's funny that Moriarty is such a minor figure and is now like is if you know literature is like the symbol of ultimate evil, right? Like,
Yeah.
but that's just really funny. Well, I guess you can make the argument that he's the first supervillain in fiction. But
And if not the, he is one of.
yeah,
Mm.
the plot of the original, the first volume of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is very similar. M is an original character though. Campion Bond, which drawing the James Bond connections more directly. Someone has stolen um, Professor. I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Caver's. No, is that who it is? Yes. There's so in H.G. Wells is the first Men in the Moon. Um, this guy, Professor Caver, invents this new element called caverite, which negates the force of gravity, and that's how they go to the moon in First Men in the Moon. Um, if you know your science fiction history debates, you know the difference between H.G. Wells and Jules Verne is that Jules Verne was very focused on trying to find grounded scientific explanations for his things. And
Hmm.
H.G. Wells would just make shit up because he wanted to get to the socio-political ideas he wanted to explore with his science fiction concepts. So he's just like, fuck it, there's an anti-gravity element. Like, um,
Both valid approaches and
yes.
both very interesting in their own
But
right.
it shows the schism that started in science fiction, which goes until this day, right? Um,
Yeah, Star Wars, Star Trek. Like
yeah.
that's kind of the foundational thing between those two.
It was believed to have been stolen by Dr. Fu Manchu, who is a villain that pops up in the first volume of League. Although I believe he's just called uh, the Dragon Man or something because legally you can't use Fu Manchu.
Hmm.
There's a lot of that where
And arguably ethically.
yeah, there's that whole element
Yeah.
to it. Uh, I will say there. I'm not gonna. There is not. They don't not shy away from the yellow peril elements of the Fu Manchu character, but he ends up being the false villain. It turns out that it is being orchestrated by Professor Moriarty, whoever at this point. Part of the reason for forming the League is that Sherlock Holmes is quote unquote dead, so there's no one to else who can solve this mystery. So that's part of the impetus. So the Sherlock Holmes faking his death is part of what sets off the creation of the League in the comics. So it's a little similar. It ends up leading to like a whole war in the air storyline, which was very popular in literature of that time because that was still like a really novel concept. And like I said, yeah, and then like the second one is War of the Worlds, but with the League. Um, and yeah, so they changed a lot when they made the film.
Yeah, I'm getting the sense that they did.
Yeah. So and there's a I believe let me see if the you can find there was a website. I can't remember what it was called, but there was a website that was like the annotated League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which basically goes through every single frame, every single issue of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and points out the cultural references that are being made in it. So you can look up all the overlaps that are happening in these stories. Um, and I believe there's even like a backup story in the comic that was entirely prose. That I believe it's Alan Quartermain ends up meeting H.G. Wells as the time traveler from the time machine, and they end up going to the Mountains of Madness at a certain point. Like
Oh, of
it's
course, of
all
course.
insane. It's all crazy and ridiculous. Um, but yeah, give the comics a read. Um,
Yeah, no, they
anyway,
sound fucking great.
yeah, I was really interested in this movie as a kid, but didn't see it in theaters for whatever reason. I saw it on DVD later, and I was kind of like, yeah, I liked it. Like, I didn't have like strong opinions of it. It is kind of a like I never seem to remember the third act of this movie, um, because
I can't imagine why.
it's not very engaging or interesting. Um, but the other element of this is that I went because I liked the movie, I went to buy the comic, and the comic book shop owner would not let me buy it because I was too young to read League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, in
Oh.
their words. Um,
Was there like monster fucking like page one?
Not page one, but there's a lot in the comics.
Okay.
Didn't stop me from getting it eventually though. So
Hmm.
I think by the time I do read it, though, I've like read Watchmen and shit. You know, like I read Watchmen when I was in middle school, man. Like probably too
No,
early,
okay.
but like yeah, I did read it at a fairly young age. Um, so like by that point, I wasn't totally shocked, but I was shocked that like, oh, this is very different than the movie, obviously. But at that point, I was a little more familiar with Alan Moore. Um, and like I said, I can't remember if this movie would have been my introduction to any of his work, even like passively. Because the other element is I looked this up. It was actually 2003 as well. There was a History Channel documentary called Comic Book Superheroes Unmasked, which I remember watching as a kid, which was my introduction to sort of the latter half of that documentary is sort of about the darker material of people like Frank Miller, like Alan Moore, like unfortunately Neil Gaiman, which is probably where I learned who Neil Gaiman is. Um, Funny story though. I used to watch that documentary with my dad because my dad's also a comic book nerd. And I remember this is something, one of those things that just sticks out in my mind. They interview Neil Gaiman in that documentary, and Neil Gaiman's talking for a couple seconds, And my dad, with unprompted, not even to me, just kind of out loud, just goes, "I don't like that guy." And so he saw something I clearly didn't. uh, but
I
hey,
mean, sometimes people just have a good gut instinct, you know, where it's just like,
yeah,
I got a bad feeling about that guy,
yeah,
and it turns out to be right.
yeah. Hey, what are you gonna do? Um, Want to talk about Sandman?
Sure, yeah.
Let's do.
Let's get into it. Let's break down. No, no, we're not doing that. I also
It's
haven't seen it, but I also feel like at this
it's
point,
bad.
who needs to?
It's bad. It's like I don't like. It was one of those where like I think people rallied behind it because it was sort of ridiculous that Netflix was even considering canceling it. But yeah, it's bad. Uh, I would say Sandman also kind of has a bit of a league thing where like I mean like Gaiman use Sandman to overlap with a lot of literature, right? Like
Hmm.
there's a lot going on in his Sandman work. Um,
Yeah. Also, like this is a problem I'm noticing with a lot of adaptations, and everyone notices it. It's like some of these like original comic artworks are so incredible, and they got these great visual designs and
well,
color schemes and great like personalities just through the character drawings alone. And then you see the Sandman show, which I've only seen the trailer of, and you're like, yeah, that looks like a Netflix show.
yeah,
You
it
know?
looks like every
Nothing
other
inherently
show.
wrong with that,
Yeah.
but it's like if you're adapting like something like Sandman or League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, you want it to look like lavish and big and like fantastical. So I'll say this League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, I won't say it's all great production design, but there sure is a lot of it.
No, it's
And on
not.
that level, I
It's
appreciate
it's
it.
far from perfect, but you are never not aware that someone lost a lot of money on this movie. Uh,
Yes.
you have to
Mhm.
imagine this partly comes out of the like decades long attempt to make Watchmen into a movie that just never
Yeah.
materialized. Because like Alan Moore was such a name for a while, and this is sort of like post the comic book boom, post creator owned. You have to imagine it's like because I guess part of the development of this is that they started developing this while Alan Moore was developing the comic. I guess he was having a conversation with a producer, and they're like, "That idea sounds great. We'll buy the film rights like now." And Moore was like, "Cool," at the time, anyway. Uh, and yeah, and then it's like the works diverge significantly. And I think Alan Moore always tries to present it as like they changed it, and that's why I didn't like it. And I really think he has other issues with the work that are go back to sort of compensation and then how he is used as a marketing tool almost, which I don't think he approves of. Um,
Hmm.
Unless you pay him, I think he's a very. I think he could play up his anarchist stuff, but I also think he's very much a like "fuck you, pay me" guy. Uh,
Yeah.
which isn't. I don't disagree. Like, I don't disagree with that, but I think sometimes he tries to frame it as uh, I felt my creative integrity was being threatened, and
Hmm.
it's like, yeah, you wanted to get paid, which I agree with, but
Yeah.
um,
I mean, do you know the story? Like, this, not just compensation, but like how abrasive you could be. Do you know the story about Damon Lindelof and Watchmen?
oh no, like I remember there was something between them, but I can't remember what.
Yeah, I think he reached out because he's like, I want like approval of the master.
Yeah,
And everyone in the world immediately read that interview and was like, why would you do that? You know what the
yeah,
answer's
you
going to
just
be.
he's gonna
You could have made the greatest television show of all time. You're not going to get a good response. That's on you at that point, buddy. like,
what did Moore say? I don't remember. Like I do
let me check it out because I remember. I don't even remember what he said. I just remember like Damon Lindelof being like, I tried to reach out, and he sent him a letter, and
Alan
then
Moore slams embarrassing HBO TV show.
no, no, he okay. So Alan Moore says, I don't want anything to do with your show, and that's like it. Um, so you know, could have been worse.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, because the show is like, it's like it treats the comic as like canon, it's and so he's like, oh, obviously this will get his approval.
Mhm.
It's like it's not about that anymore, man. Like just leave him alone. Like
Moore said the letter.
that to me is like that is vanity.
Here's more.
Trying that.
More. Uh, here's this is from a LA Times article. Moore said the letter, which began, "Dear Mr. Moore, I am one of the bastards currently destroying Watchmen," was was full of neurotic ramblings. In turn, he sent the showrunner a hostile reply. I said, "Look, this is embarrassing to me. I don't want anything to do with your show. Please don't bother me again." So, yeah. Um, yeah, don't.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't bother him.
Alan Moore, he has to have done something. Maybe he hasn't. Maybe he really hasn't done anything like adaptation wise with any of his work. I'm thinking of. I'm trying to think if he's done anything that like five people have seen. Right. Like,
Hmm.
um, it looks like he wrote a 2020 film called The Show, which doesn't even have a poster um, on
Oh,
Wikipedia.
really?
Um, it was released by Shout Factory, apparently. Um, so, all right, I guess I'll have to look for that somewhere. Um,
Yeah, sure.
so,
Why not? Um, also, I'm pretty sure you know this, but for those that don't, Alan Moore has recently, as 2023, in an interview with the Telegraph, um, asked DC Comics to send all the money from any future TV series or films to Black Lives Matter.
all right, right on.
Yeah,
Good move on your part, Alan.
yeah. um, so yeah, there's good stuff.
Ah, you fucking psycho.
Yeah. It's like, look, if you can use his psychopathy for like good to support good
Well,
causes,
no, I
like,
agree. Um, Morton has been referenced in popular culture and has been recognized as an influence on a variety of literary television figures, including Neil Gaiman and Damon Lindelof. Thanks, Wikipedia.
yeah, really, really in depth history there.
I'm sure he wants to be associated with
Uh,
both those men right now.
um, in your opinion, what is the best Alan Moore like work?
Oh,
Like, be it original or like his run on anything. Like, do you have a list of favorites?
I
Maybe
mean,
best is hard.
I'm a huge Swamp Thing fan. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like that's my monster. Like I love monster stories, so like I love that
Yeah.
shit. And it is kind of fun. Like it's one of those things where Alan Moore did so little. Like he's known for being a DC guy, but he did so little actual playing in the DC universe, right? Like he did a lot of one shots and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
no overarching characters. And Swamp Thing is kind of one of the few he did like a long run on. So like I'm attracted to that. Um, I'll say League probably ranks near the top if it's not at the top.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I really love it. I mean, it's kind of I kind of don't want to just pick Watchmen, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Like, here's the thing. There's a valid argument for that being like the greatest like comic run ever.
mm,
Like this, that one giant paperback you can
yeah,
get for that. Like, there is a good argument for that. Um, but it is a little more interesting to talk about his other stuff at this point.
yeah.
Like,
It's like I feel
everyone
like
else is it's well trodden ground.
yeah, we everything that's been done with Watchmen has been done at this point. I will say if you can get your hands on a copy of the DC Universe, The Stories of Alan Moore, like a really old paperback, trade paperback, it contains a lot of his one-shot stories, including For the Man Who Has Everything and The Killing Joke. Um, but it also has stuff like what's that? What's that? he wrote a Green Lantern story that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head. We don't talk about whatever. Mongo doesn't socialize, um,
Mm.
which introduces the character of Mongo to the Green Lantern mythos. Uh,
Mogo.
Mogo, fuck, I said Mongo, didn't
Yeah,
I?
yeah. All your
Uh,
fucking. You just lost all your cred.
I'm thinking of Mongo from fucking Blazing Saddles. Mongo only pawn in
Mogo is
Game of
only
Life.
pawn.
And he also wrote, he wrote the original Blackest Night story, which
Mm-hmm.
then like they basically made like a multimedia franchise off of. No wonder he's fucking
Yeah.
pissed. Like, uh, but
Yeah.
hey,
And it's a DC thing, and those are the ones that at least pay you residuals.
he also wrote a handful of Star Wars comics. Like, and by handful I mean like literally like three or four. Um, but when there was a UK imprint of Star Wars comics, he did a couple original stories. Um, one I believe starring Vader, one I believe starring Princess Leia. That have like really weird, trippy concepts in them for like a very brief story. Uh,
Hmm.
what's your
I
least
gotta check
favorite
those
Alan
out.
Moore
I haven't read those.
comic?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't I don't know. I don't think I've read anything I've hated.
You know what? I'm not a big fan of whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh, why do you think that
I
is?
don't know. It's just it it. What's cool about whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow is that it's quote unquote the last Superman story, right? Like it was
Mm-hmm.
right around the time DC was rebooting the whole universe. It is supposed to be an end to the original run of Superman comics that were going on at that point, and they even brought in Kurt Swan, who had been the the artist for Superman going back to like the '60s, so it has that old '60s look. It's really cool. I just don't. I don't know if Alan Moore can riff on the stuff he's trying to riff on very well. Um,
Mm.
in terms of like he wants it to be a throwback, but also wants to bring in his deconstructionism, and I don't think it totally works, in my opinion. Um,
All right. I mean, that's strange for me to hear because I think like besides Watchmen, like for the man who has everything, that's a pretty seminal read for
that's
me
a great
at the
one.
time.
For the Man Who Has Everything is
Yeah.
great, but yeah, just I don't know why. Whatever happened for the Man Tomorrow is just not one of my favorites of his.
Hmm.
There's also stuff
I'm
like
gonna
he
have to
never.
go back and check out more because
There's
like,
stuff he like never finished, like 1963 and shit. So like he's got a lot of
mm,
comics. Um,
yeah, like I need to check out From Hell. People have been recommending that one to me a
From
lot
Hell's
lately.
great.
I don't know why.
From Hell's great. Um, what's the From Hell
Is
movie?
there? That's the Hughes brothers who
Yeah,
directed that, which I haven't
2001.
seen.
Um, I just think it's interesting with the Johnny Depp thing, with going into it's pre Pirates of the Caribbean for him. And famously, everyone was like, Johnny Depp is not a bankable star. Don't put him in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Hmm.
And then oops. Uh, but yeah. Um,
And to be fair, he's never been a bankable star like outside of Pirates of the Caribbean.
yeah.
Like his Tim Burton movies were popular because they were Tim Burton movies at the height of his blockbuster power, not
Well,
even because they were good movies. You know.
without going into a whole Johnny Depp thing, Johnny Depp had a very similar thing where I think he was coasting off the success of franchise work for a long time in a very similar way that Will Smith was, right? Where
Hmm.
Will Smith had, it's that thing where Will Smith was one of the most bankable movie stars of all time, and then how many of those movies are actually good, right? Like,
Hmm.
not a lot, not a lot, frankly. Um, so It's interesting who got canceled
but
harder there.
Bad Boys 2 is so good that it elevates the rest of his work.
All right.
To a degree, I would argue that it's more potent and powerful than anything Alan Moore has put his hands on.
All right. Sure. I wish,
It's
you know
early
what?
over here. I'm sorry.
I wish there was a film version of Alan Moore where, like, like how Alan Moore would like do a run on something like Spawn or Youngblood, like they would just bring him
Yeah.
in and he would just do something insane. There should be a guy like that where it's like we're bringing in the Alan Moore filmmakers to do Bad Boys 3, like a guy who hates Bad Boys to do, but is like
hmm
an undeniably talented filmmaker and writer, and then we get them to do the next Bad Boys movie.
I mean, look, fucking Joe Carnahan almost did Bad Boys 3. Not that he hates action movies, but I
Mm.
think his aggression is known at this point.
Yeah.
Not that I know any horror stories or anything like that. I think that's very different. That's a different
Yeah.
conversation. But just like he can be a little tense. And I think he would have directed a hell of a Bad Boys 3 at the time. I
Keep
like the one we
making these
got,
episodes about
but
bad boys.
because what else do I have? What
Nothing,
else is there
clearly.
in this
Clearly
world?
nothing. I just dumped like 17 things you could be
I
checking out
know.
instead of bad boys. And instead you're like, bad boys 2 again, I guess.
Yeah, it's it's the most important movie America made this century.
Sure.
Like it
Whatever.
just is.
Whatever.
Yeah. I
Not
will check out everything you
I'm
mentioned.
not in the fucking mood.
Okay.
As someone who
Here,
likes
let's
bad
go
boys
back to
2, I'm
League.
not in the mood. I was gonna say though, I was thinking like if like League if something like you were to do League now, like how do you start incorporating stuff like anime and video games and movies like Bad Boys and shit like that? Like the culture's really changed in the latter half of the 20th and beginning of the 21st century. Um, we've almost
Yeah.
had a cultural explosion in the United States, and Western influence exported everywhere to a degree that was happening in the British Empire at the turn of the previous century. Um, I'm sure that bodes well for the current state of the American Empire, but
Yeah. This is depressing.
balls in your court,
Um.
China.
Yeah. But to your point about like what a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen would look like nowadays, trying to combine all these things, right? Like let's put aside copyright stuff, right? Like
Mm.
let's take a look at it, just like totally impractically, but optimistically. Like what would be the things, the characters that you pull to make the modern League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
All right.
that would traverse this new century?
You know what? I'm going to cheat a
Because I
little
think you're right
bit.
about anime for sure.
I'm going to cheat a little
Okay.
bit. Um, I'm going to look up most successful franchises. Uh,
No. Okay.
I'm gonna look up.
Iron Man is gonna fuck Jake Sully.
So the most no, well, no, not just film franchise. I'm doing like franchises in general. Uh,
Right.
so
Okay.
what are the top two? These are the only ones that have made over $50 billion. Can you take a guess?
Oh fuck.
One of them
My
is
brain says
one of them.
Bond and Harry Potter.
Nope, not even close.
Whoa. Okay.
I'll say one of them is anime JRPG territory.
Is it Dragon Ball?
Nope, not Dragon Ball.
One Piece.
Not One Piece. It's a big one. It is not something that it is something that your grandfather would be able to name a character from or something like that. They wouldn't know it,
Whoa.
but they'd be able to
Really?
name a character from it probably. Uh,
And it's not Dragon Ball. Well, I forget. Dragon Ball is more popular here, technically, right? Like that's
yeah,
the whole thing.
hmm but
Yeah.
it was
Fuck.
exported here very successfully.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
number one, by the way. It's nearing on $100 billion in revenue.
That's fucking insane.
And I would
God.
argue it's not, maybe doesn't have the cultural staying power, but it's still relevant today, I would argue.
Okay, so it's not. There's nothing currently going on from this franchise.
No, there is.
Oh my god.
Um, there's still an anime is still being produced, games are still being produced, products are still being sold. Um, they're exploring new media possibilities. Um,
Oh god. Okay, give me one more guess.
Kind of kick yourself when you don't get it, I think.
I know. I know. Is it like Naruto?
No, you're aiming way too low.
Fuck.
You got to think of something on a like on a massive cultural scale. You got to be thinking of something that are like plushies in bedrooms level of like
Oh,
children.
Pokemon.
Yes, there you go.
Fuck. The plushies gave it away.
Yeah,
All right.
that's what I mean. Look, it's
You,
so in that
you know what?
territory.
That
What
makes
could the
sense.
second one be? I'll say it's
Is it
American.
all?
It's significantly
Okay.
older. It does not have the cultural staying power that Pokemon has currently, but it is still a recognizable figure and brand.
Is it like Mickey
Yep,
Mouse?
Mickey Mouse is number two.
Yeah.
So those are our top two. Um,
That little fucker.
I will say though, there's like a $30 billion difference between Pokemon and Mickey Mouse, which is interesting, considering that Pokemon is
That it,
significantly younger than Mickey Mouse.
yeah. Oh man, they kind of. Well, you know what? Like we're talking about like Warner Brothers dropping the ball with like the Looney Tunes, which is absolutely true.
Mm.
But like, and not that Disney's like gone that done that poorly with Mickey Mouse. They're also not doing significantly better with Mickey Mouse.
Yeah,
Like,
they don't know what to do with Mickey. They just don't.
yeah, the cute mascot thing doesn't seem to be of interest to the corporate stooges that run these studios now.
They won't let those rights go.
Uh huh.
So there's that.
That's stupid. So okay, so Mickey Mouse will team up with Pikachu, right?
Yeah, well, that's what
That's
I'm saying. Is
the.
like, so like here's where we go. Like, so we got these, but like they're like otherworldly characters, right? They don't really take place on Earth, you know.
Mm-hmm.
In the league,
Yeah.
using league logic, they would be characters that like appear as some sort of facsimile of themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because and then the other one is like, here's like Winnie the Pooh is number three as like the third most successful franchise of all time. Winnie the Pooh does take place in reality. Um, you know, he's a silly old bear that belongs to a kid named
Yeah.
Christopher Robin. Um, Although I would be shocked if Alan Moore did not make a reference to Winnie the Pooh in one of the like um in League Volume Two, they go to find Doctor Moreau to try and find a way to stop the Martians, and when they find all his creations, a lot of them are uh, animal characters from like British literature, right? Um, yeah,
Oh.
so like Mr. Toad from Wind in the Willows and shit like that. Um,
Are they like monstrous versions or just
yes,
like versions?
yes, like
Oh,
monstrous
okay.
evil versions. Yep, Winnie the Pooh is in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Um,
Hmm. See, I to me that idea immediately sounds like annoying just because like the modern thing is like, man, this classic children's thing, but like fucked up. But because it's Ellen Moore, it's like, all right, yeah, that's
Works a
probably
little better with
interesting.
more, although he does not. I will say, Winnie the Pooh is not one of the monstrous versions of Moreau's characters. It says here, Winnie the Pooh appears in 1904, can be seen wandering around Sherlock Holmes's garden. Um, in 1958, he can be seen in military gear in the background. It's a very funny image I'm looking at. And then a statue of him appears in front of Basil Thomas's house in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Um, so, uh, so he's made like cameos. He's not like a full on character.
Okay, so I just looked up Winnie the Pooh military gear the moment you said that,
Oh
and it's
God.
like a bunch of stickers. It's a bunch of stickers with an angry Winnie the Pooh, and it says "No bothers given,"
Oh
which
shit.
is pretty cute. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then someone spelled it Winnie the Pew, right? Like pew pew, which is very cute. And then there's with him with his nightgown. but holding like an assault rifle instead of the little wooden rifle thing. Um, None of them are the images you are referring to, though. Is
No,
that correct?
I
Yeah,
doubt.
I didn't
I
think
doubt
so.
it. It's on the
Okay.
League wiki if you go to it, but hey, you don't need to do that.
Okay.
Um, but I will say to bring it back to the whole like Harry Potter is the villain of League Volume 3. Uh,
Yeah, where he pisses lightning bolts. Is that
yeah, he
correct?
shoots lightning bolts from his dick. Um,
Okay. Or comes, whatever. I don't know.
yeah, he's. I'm trying to remember. Is it? It's Volume 3. I just want to make sure because there's the Black Dossier, which is kind of like a mid. It like takes place between the stories. Um, So I can't remember. It's one of those, but yes, he appears. And when you think about it, he is kind of the antithesis of something like the League and what Alan is going more Harry Potter as a character, right? The sort of like
Mm-hmm.
franchisization of pop culture that we don't, not that like these characters all came from like a completely noble, not money making type place, but they did come from more creative visions. Whereas Harry Potter kind of signaled the beginning of the end in terms of siloing culture, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
Harry Potter was very much a deliberate manufactured attempt to do what Goosebumps kind of tapped into accidentally in terms of the developing YA market, right? Um,
Yeah.
and now this is what, our fiction for children is. It's these franchises. Um,
Mm-hmm.
where someone like Alan Moore, like, probably read a lot of the books referenced in League as a child. Like, there weren't those as many distinctions, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think about that. I always
The
think about that with,
genre like qualifiers, I think,
yeah,
they didn't exist back then.
yeah. I always think about someone like John Carpenter, where he talks about like watching like the African Queen as a child, and it's like, oh yeah, there didn't used to be those sort of genre distinctions, right? Like there didn't used to be a
Mm-hmm.
sort of like, oh, well, this is for kids and this is for adults and this is for blah. Like it was all just kind of the same for a long time. But yeah, Harry Potter is one of the highest grossing franchises of all time. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so good job, idiots. Uh,
Wait, look. We can't sit here and be like that wasn't one of the most important like elements of like reading growing up for us.
sure,
Like
but
it.
it is one where I look back on those very harshly, and I think
Yeah,
part of
yeah.
it,
As you should, as we all should.
but like I can't. It's honestly hard for me to tell how much of it is the J.K. Rowling thing or how much of it is just how poorly aged that material is, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm harsher on those books than a lot of other stuff from that era that also hasn't aged very well.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, whatever. Uh, I think what we're learning is all of this is more interesting to talk about than the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie.
Yeah, yeah. Again, we didn't hate this, right? Like it's not a movie we're particularly harsh about. It's just like,
Yeah,
yeah, no, it didn't. The movie itself, there's not a lot to talk about.
yeah. It's very
It's all the
generic.
history you just gave and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
it's very generic, very boring. The only really other funny thing is like this famous Sean Connery quote where he's like, I said no to the Matrix because I didn't understand it, and I said no to Lord of the Rings because I didn't understand it, and I didn't understand League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, so I decided to say yes this time.
That's a little tragic.
Yeah. And then famously, he had such a miserable time making it that he was like, I'm never doing another movie ever again. Um,
Yeah,
Apparently, there
yeah,
are attempts to reboot this, uh,
yeah.
but
I
um,
mean, did you see who was involved initially?
uh, no.
All right, Michael Green, who's written like he did work on Blade Runner 2049, like
Mm,
Logan. Um, he was trying to make it a TV show like as far back as like a decade ago, I think, and that is obviously dead. There was that attempt to revitalize the film as a like a female centric film. Because that's what people were doing a decade ago. They're like, look, we like women. We're not horrible sexist monsters in this industry. And then would leave them out to dry when their movies didn't do
and then
well.
Ghostbusters
But
didn't do well, and they
yeah,
fucking abandoned all those ideas immediately because they're cowards and weak-minded fools.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
um, yeah, and I think as of May 2022, there's a film attempt to like make it a direct to streaming movie, so that means that's probably dead because they don't do that anymore. At least with these properties. So yeah, who knows? Who knows? I'm sure they'll do another version at some point, but like,
Like here's I think
who
part of it is
knows
that
what that's gonna look like?
Fox had the rights, and then with the Disney Fox merger, it kind of canceled any projects. But I guess there's someone's still kicking something around. But who knows? I don't know. The bomb of this movie could just be too much for people to want to fuck with it, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but if you want something that's in adjacent, check out the show Penny Dreadful, which was pretty solid. Um,
Yeah,
which does a very similar League of Extraordinary Gentlemen thing. Um,
I'm so stupid. I never really like considered that, but yes, I like that show a lot. I didn't see the spinoff, which starred Nathan Lane, so I should. Um, I heard it wasn't very good, but it starred Nathan Lane,
yeah, so it can't
so
be
I will
all
see
bad.
it. Yeah.
It's sort of like Beau is Afraid, which is a terrible film, but when Nathan Lane's on screen, it's good for a couple minutes.
I think the whole thing's pretty good, but
What
it is the highlight when you're with Nathan Lane.
one of the most embarrassing films released in recent years. Beau is Afraid. Um,
For Penny Dreadful, also a writer I really like, Kirsty Wilson Cairns, kind of got her start on that show, and like John Logan, the showrunner and like head writer, like mentored her on
mm,
that, and I don't know, I'm a big fan. She was gonna do a Star Wars with Taika Waititi, and that's dead, I
oh,
guess. They said he's still attached to something, but whatever.
she hitched her wagon to a really really bad horse. Uh,
Yeah, well, she's doing other stuff. She's currently writing that 4-part Beatles biopic for Sam Mendes, so I'm glad she's getting paid.
God, we are so fucking
That's what I'll
cooked.
say.
Fuck everything. Like it's you can't. There's not a like. Oh, she's working on an original project. It's like it's fucking Star Wars. It's fucking superheroes. It's musical biopics. This is our culture now. That's the league. That's the American League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Is fucking a washed up rock star, a fucking superhero that's a fascist, and fucking Luke Skywalker. Fucking just like, but like the most trite, boring, uncomplicated version of that character. That's our league.
Anyways, I'm looking forward to what she does next. And I wish I could say the same about director Stephen Norrington, who, whatever, it didn't work this time. He shouldn't have been put in director jail. Because Blade fucking kicks ass.
Yeah. I have not seen his other two movies though.
I've
Uh,
heard Death Machine's like actually really good.
yeah, but Death Machine's a science fiction horror film, so people that love that shit are going to defend it. Uh,
Okay. Yeah. So
you're
we'll
gonna
probably like it.
you'll like it because it'll be like Alien, probably. Uh,
Yeah.
and then I'll like it for being better than Prometheus. But yeah, it's a little ridiculous that he hasn't made a single movie in over 20 years at this point. Uh, he's been attached to stuff and working on stuff, but for whatever reason, it never developed. And I don't totally know. Clearly, this production wasn't a very good production, right? And
Hmm.
like I said, part of it was Connery straight up like retiring after this. Like he was like it was such a miserable production that he was like, I'll never work on a movie like that ever again. So, and then just straight up didn't make a movie ever again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That it's a shame. It's a shame because he had some juice, and we've given worse directors with worse movies more shots.
Yeah. Like,
And yeah,
I'll see.
Blade made fucking money.
Yeah.
This
Uh,
one didn't really, but that's okay. That's okay. You should be able to swing at the bat and miss. It happens.
yeah, it does. But this is a pretty big miss, frankly, even for its era. Normally, like, there's like a movie that bombed, but it, like, you know, it at least made its budget back, which is still a loss. But hey, and this is
Hmm.
like it made 78 million on a $179 million budget. Oh no, I'm a miss. Oh wait, no, this made. Wait a minute, this actually made money. I'm misreading this.
Wait, Did it make money at the box office, or did it make money like on returns from like DVDs and
Well, all right.
stuff?
Here's what it says. It's a 78 million budget, $179 million box office. That's not a total bomb. Like that's not good,
No.
obviously, but that's not like I was always under the opinion this thing like lost like $100 million. So
Mm-hmm. No, no. What the fuck? Yeah. Then this thing it broke even.
I don't know if this factors in, but it said 48 million from DVD sales. Uh, so
Yeah. So
I don't know if
what the fuck?
that's not the
That's
box office, but yeah, who I don't know what
okay.
happened.
179 million in theaters, plus the DVD sales, plus the rentals.
This
So
win. This is a win of a
yeah, what
movie.
the fuck? Yeah,
I
that same math is how you get Hellboy 2 from Hellboy, you know?
Yeah, and I guess this is
Like,
just it because Pirates of the Caribbean ate its lunch in such totality, right? Like I'm guessing it just looked a lot worse than it was, but it was very poorly received as a film, to be fair.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, no, no. Yeah, I remember hearing like for basically like 2 decades at this point that this was kind of irredeemable.
yeah,
And then occasionally some letterbox friends would be like, "It's actually pretty fun." And I don't agree with either of those.
yeah,
I
it's
think it's just
currently
like,
it's
nah,
definitely not a disaster, but it's just very boring. And like I said,
yeah.
if it couldn't even keep my 11-year-old attention enough into the third act, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
so
Shot by Dan Louston again, like the to help the sometimes lots of production design, not even great, but lots of it. Um, it shot pretty well for the most part. Sometimes there's noticeable like really bad early dated special effects and CG work.
yeah,
Holy shit,
there
the
was
monster
there
that
seemed to
Mr.
be
Hyde fights.
there seemed to be a bit of a push though to do a lot more practical than you would have expected. Um,
Yeah.
like Dr. Jekyll's really there. I mean, Mr. Hyde's really there. Dr. Jekyll's the normal guy. But
Mm,
Mr. Hyde's really there a lot of the time. But yeah, there are like that, especially that end battle is just disastrous. Um,
yeah.
it does feel like they kind of had half a script and they didn't know how to end it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so, oh, and
Well.
Alan Quartermain dies, uh,
Oh yeah, he does. And
and
they take him to Africa.
a witch doctor is performing a ritual made up of what seems like entirely out of like stock footage. It tries to bring and implying that he'll come back to life, but Sean Connery decided not to come back and then died in 2020.
Uh, wow. Yeah, that did happen. That did happen to him. Did he die from COVID or just being like old?
Let me check. Because he was an older guy, but also a lot of old people did die of COVID. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Things are great. Things are good. Things are happy. Um, pneumonia and respiratory failure. So I mean
Okay.
that could be COVID adjacent, depending on we don't. But
Yeah.
obviously he was living a very private life towards the end. So
Hmm.
we don't know what was going on there. Um,
Yeah. I remember hearing about he suffered from like dementia for a
um,
while. Um,
I'm not seeing
which is
that here, but I don't know. Um, oh, okay, here it is. Yeah. Uh, I mean, that's unfortunately just something that plagues a lot of older people,
yeah.
which is just sad. But uh,
Yeah, that's never easy. So, heart goes out to his family. Um, Probably shouldn't have beat women while he was alive.
no, he never. He didn't.
But
I don't think he actually beat
or
women.
allegedly,
I
yeah.
would no. I want to give him a slight break. I don't think he actually hit women. He just gave a weird ass interview where he said occasionally you have to hit a woman.
Which is an insane thing to say. but I guess that yeah, you're right.
Like,
that is
yeah, like
technically
he
not an admission of guilt.
yeah, like I don't think any. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. I really do apologize, but I don't know if anyone's ever come out where like he. Uh, oh no, here we go. There we go. Found one. Um, yeah, his first wife. So all right, well he's
Hmm.
dead. So
Yeah, it's all right. He's gone now.
all right, here's
That
something weird. Here's something weird. All right, so she accused him of this in the 70s and her biography. He denied the claims in a 1965 Playboy interview saying, I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with in hitting a woman, though I don't recommend you do it in the same way you hit a man, which is an interesting way to deny that you were accused of that. So,
uh-huh.
uh,
What does that mean?
well, we
Whoa.
can't ask him because he is dead.
Yeah.
Just going to keep throwing that out there that he is, in fact, dead. So,
Yes. Um. Good riddance.
Ishmael's in the film.
Yes, he is. Um.
He says the
Oh yeah.
line.
Yeah. Oh. Well, here you do your Ishmael thing. I feel like you have a Moby Dick thing geared up, ready to go.
No, I don't. He just says, "Call
Oh,
me
really?
Ishmael."
Oh, okay.
He's standing in front of Nemo's car and says, "Call me Ishmael" for no reason, and then helps everyone into the car.
Well, they put that line in there for you.
Yeah, you know what? I would have known it. I did know it in that era. I was not from reading Moby Dick, but I had seen film adaptations of Moby Dick by that point. So
Well, there you go. Yeah, we didn't talk
Patrick
about Nemo
Stewart.
at all.
Patrick Stewart played Nemo. I mean, not Nemo. He played fucking Ahab.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second,
Yeah,
what?
I went the wrong direction there for a second. In like a TV version of Moby Dick that I saw as a kid. Uh,
Was it? That would be like the 80s or 90s, right?
it is 1998, starring Patrick Stewart and Henry Thomas as Ishmael,
Oh,
who's experiencing a sort of renaissance. Um,
yeah.
it's also one of Gregory
Thank
Peck's.
you,
It's
Mike
Gregory
Flanagan.
Peck's final performances in Moby Dick. Uh,
Whoa.
he's the preacher. He's the priest that gives the sermon before everyone goes out to sea, which is an important part of the Moby Dick narrative, which was played by Orson
Hmm.
Welles in the John Huston version of Moby Dick.
Hmm. Well, see, you got a little something out of the movie, and I'm happy for you.
Yeah, go fuck yourself.
No, no, no. I am. I am.
Fuck you. You fuck. I'll fucking you fuck. You motherfucker you. Uh
uh, Jason Fleming is fun, and I like him as an actor,
is Joe
and I like when he
Rogan
pops up and
is
stuff.
Joe Rogan part of the American League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
Don't ever say that ever again. No, no. Oh, okay, here's a question: is there like an anti-league of extraordinary gentlemen? Because I feel like every team, like
Oh.
ensemble narrative, they have to come up against like the
Well,
anti-league or
here's
the
the thing. I
anti-team.
think a lot of the league stuff ends up involving the league like infighting amongst themselves. Like
Okay.
so there's a lot of
Oh,
that.
they're too
And
incompetent to
y-
have an anti-league.
yeah, well it's like there's a lot of and also like, it turns out in this movie and the first volume they're working for Moriarty. Like they've kind of been stooges to
Hmm.
his plan. So, um,
Yeah.
but yeah. I have not read volume
All
4. I have
right.
not read volume 4 of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I've only read up to 3. So, uh, I have not read the
All
Nemo
right. Well,
trilogy either, which is about Nemo's daughter. Uh,
I'll give it a shot. I'm gonna give those a shot,
They're good. I think you would
and
like them.
hope.
They're very
Yeah,
dark and fucked
I
up and
think I
very
would like
different.
everything you mentioned today. I just hadn't checked
Yeah,
them out.
yeah. I mean, it's only written by Alan Moore.
Yeah. I mean, what else has he done?
Yeah, that hack.
Yeah.
I should mention the other co-creator of League, Kevin O'Neill, who passed away fairly recently, I believe. Um, he was the art. He passed away in 2022. Um, yeah, he was the co-creator of League, and did all the art, and it
R.I.P.
has a very distinct art style that I very much appreciate. And he worked on a lot of, I believe he worked on a lot of more stuff in the latter half of his career. Um, but hey,
Oh yeah, no, no, I see. Uh, the DC Universe stories of Alan Moore, the Omega Men, Tales of the Green Lantern Corps annual. Yeah. Okay.
he's worked with
Well,
him a
rest
few
in
times.
peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. So
Yeah. Thanks for. Yeah, I'm looking at some of the art styles of the comic League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and I really like it. I'm really responding to it already.
yeah,
So,
it's a good
yeah.
comic.
Thanks for this treasure trove of work that I'm about to dive into.
Yes, you're welcome. You know what? You're welcome.
Yeah, you
You're
specifically. Yeah.
welcome. I'm a hero again.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Well, this one was kind of your idea, anyways, right?
I'm
This
waiting for
movie.
you to get to volume two because there is a moment in volume two that when you get to it, you're gonna text me and be like, "What the fuck?" And I cannot wait.
Okay. All right. But until then, Matt, would you recommend this movie?
I recommend the comic.
All right.
That's all you're getting from me.
um, yeah.
Oh, there was a novelization of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It's fucking ridiculous. Wow. Written by Kevin J. Anderson of all fucking people.
Oh, whoa.
So that's kind of silly. Um,
Yeah. What the
but
fuck?
so
The son of Dune himself.
yeah, and the fucking all those Star Wars books and some X Files books and some other things.
Uh, he also did a spinoff for Titan AE.
Yeah, I believe we talked about him on the Titan AE episode. Um,
Yeah.
so
What a good movie.
maybe we should hunt down this novelization.
You find out it's like secretly a masterpiece. It's like one of those novelizations that's better than the movies.
Yeah, yeah, like Jaws 2 or whatever. All
Yeah.
right. You
All
can
right.
find me at
That's it.
Emperor OTN on Blue Sky.
You could find me at the links down below and the Waffle Press, where these episodes will be coming out weekly, sometimes Mondays and sometimes Wednesdays, apparently. What day are you listening to this? Who knows? That's a
Jacob, does
surprise for
anyone
me.
care? What are you doing? Just end the episode.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. We've been professionally unprofessional. Goodbye,
Bye.
everyone.
Fuck off.